History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, April 1st, 2021. And we're live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been a very, very busy day. We know today was day 4 of the Derek Chauvin trial in the murder of George Floyd. We'll talk about that in the second half of the show. First half of the show, we have a very special guest we're going to bring on here in just a minute. So you've heard me talk numerous times about Evanston, Illinois, and how Evanston, Illinois is the first city in the U.S. to approve some type of reparations for African Americans who were victims of redlining. We've talked about redlining a number of times here on the show as well. It is it's a $10 million fund that is raised by a 3% tax on recreational marijuana. The first disbursement of $400,000 has been allocated. City Council in Evanston, Illinois, passed a proposal back on Monday, March 22nd, 2021, to allocate the first $400,000, and it's going to be in disbursements of up to $25,000 to go towards purchasing a house. And we know that home ownership is one of the main ways that wealth has been created in America. Okay. And for African Americans, usually our homes are usually our largest investment, maybe outside of or our largest asset, maybe outside of a 401k plan. So we know there's been a lot of talk on social media and in the media about what happened in Evanston, Illinois. You know, we've been covering it here extensively, and it was spearheaded. This initiative was spearheaded back in 2019 by 5th Ward Alderwoman. Now, I've seen it say alderman. She's a woman. 5th Ward Alderwoman, Rue Simmons, and she is our special guest today on the African History Network show to break this down and separate fact from fiction, explain to you what happened, and correct misinformation. Welcome to the African History Network show, 5th Ward Alderwoman, Rue Simmons. How you doing today, sister?
Fantastic, and I'm very excited to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, no problem. Well, look, you know, I'm glad you accepted. I've been reading about what you spearheaded. I've been reading about what's going on in Evanston, Illinois, and as I've told my listeners numerous times, is very strategic that you all went after redlining as opposed to chattel slavery. But as it would, you know, as fate would have it, you have a lot of people who don't read past headlines and they just start spreading misinformation, etc. So first off, I want to get a little background information. And you and I talked earlier today, and there's a 77-page study that was done last year, done in 2020, and it was put together by Morris Dino Robinson Jr. And it's a 77-page study that deals with the history and of redlining in Evanston, Illinois, and the damage is done to the African American community. Talk about that for a minute. Talk about what the foundation of the proposal is.
Absolutely. So thank you for separating our initiative from the goals of H.R. 40 and one of chattel enslavement. We have various periods in our history of America where there have been egregious acts against the Black community, and we can start with any one of them and start advancing reparations as we work towards full repair. So our case in Evanston is very specific. This is a case that Evanston city government passed and enforced anti-Black housing policies that stripped away wealth from the Black community by restricting us to living in one corridor of the city. The west end of the 5th Ward is where I was born and raised. It's where I served. Today is where I've raised my family. So because we were restricted to living in this area, and then that area further being disinvested in, intentionally disenfranchised, stripped of important community amenities like a neighborhood school, like access to healthy food, like access to health care. It devalues the property, and in our limitations in living in this part of the community, we did not have access to the same lived experience, the same opportunity at wealth through housing, which you mentioned is the most likely path to building wealth for any family. So our case is very specific, with reparations being a legislative tool that requires a legal defense. It is important that the initiative is specific to the harm and the responsibility within the purview of that particular entity. In our case, it's the Evanston city government. And we understand that there are all forms of harm, and therefore there should be all forms of repair in the Black community. But we've taken the first step within our purview that we are responsible for as a city government, one that can be very well defended. We have a law department that has partnered with our local historian, Dino Robinson of Shorefront Legacy Museum, as well as his partner, the Evanston History Center, to come up with a 77-page, very coherent, detailed, specific report identifying the injuries in our city, and our remedies are to address those harms. And so we're moving forward with a housing benefit. It is $25,000 or $50,000 per household of a direct benefit that will go to build wealth through home equity. It can be used for either acquiring home ownership. It could be used to make any form of improvement, whether it's deferred maintenance or something cosmetic, something you just desire that builds wealth. It can be used to simply pay down your mortgage principal, but it will definitely be $25,000 to $50,000 per household of instant wealth. Again, not enough, not for repair, but want to make it clear that this is also not a settlement. We are only 4% into advancing our reparation initiatives with our $10 million program. We've only allocated the first $400,000.
Okay, so and as I said before, you have you raised basically $10 million, which was raised from a 3% tax on recreational marijuana. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and this $400,000 is the first disbursement. Now, I've been going through reading the 77-page study, and most people who've been commenting negatively on social media don't even know the study exists, let alone having read one page from it. The name of the study, I'm going to show it here on the screen. I want people to go read this because, see, this is a show where we do research. And, that's because that's how my teachers taught me to come before the people. You do research before you come before the people. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Professor Kabahaya Wapa-Kamene, Dr. Ray Hagins, Dr. Claude Anderson. That's how they taught me. So the name of the study is Evanston Policies and Practices Directly Affecting the African American Community, 1900 to 1960 and present. Okay. So I want to zero in on something here. You have a table of contents, and then I'm going to go to page 4. So if we go down to page 4, and it has a excerpt, Illinois Historical Context of Black Codes, Illinois Historical Context of Black Codes. Second paragraph says both Indiana and Illinois abolished, both Indiana in 1816 and Illinois abolished slavery by their constitutions, and both followed the Ohio policy of trying to prevent Black immigration by passing laws requiring Blacks who moved into the state to produce legal documents, verifying that they were free and posting bond to guarantee their good behavior, et cetera. Okay, so in all my research here, Evanston was founded in the 1840s. Illinois abolished slavery in 1818. I haven't found any evidence that slavery existed in the state of, in the city of Evanston, Illinois. Can you talk about that history? Did chattel slavery exist in Evanston? And if it did, to what extent?
So no. And
Hold on.
Trying to see you on Facebook also. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay.
And to that point, it was important that we begin to address repair for our Black community with an appropriate argument. And so since we don't have that history of chattel enslavement, we do have the history of the first Black Evanston resident who was bought out of slavery and was here in our city, but we don't have that history here.
So that was 1855. That was 1855. The first African American resident came to Evanston. Prior to that, I just want to get a clarification for all the people putting nonsense out that don't read. Evanston, Illinois did not have chattel slavery. Is that correct? Is that what the research has shown?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Go ahead. And we're coming up on a break in 2 minutes, but go ahead.
Okay. And so to that point, we don't have that history, but the consequences are the same. It's Sir Hilary Beckel says that, slavery has been outlawed, but we're in the jet stream of those consequences.
Right.
So in my leadership role, I was not okay with not advancing some form of repair for the egregious acts and the crimes against our humanity as Black people that we have experienced and that we do have damages from. That is documented and not up for debate, and we have all the data to show it. So we didn't need a feasibility study and a study. We could advance repair looking at contemporary harms in our community, redlining, historic housing policies, over-policing, mass incarceration, predatory lending practices. These are all areas of harm that also can be redressed by local government, by various institutions and organizations that have been accomplices to the conditions we have in the Black community.
Okay, so we're coming up on a break here in 1 minute. So basically, and we're going to talk about this on the other side of the break. You and I talked about this before. You also support reparations for chattel slavery, but based upon the history of Evanston, Illinois, since chattel slavery did not exist in Evanston, Illinois, but redlining did, and redlining did do damage to the African American community. With this initiative here, you all focused on redlining because there's actually a history of that in Evanston, Illinois, correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I should add that our city has supported chattel slavery reparations, HR 40, since 2002. So our reparations work began in 2002 when we had a resolution that supported HR 40. It also gave some recommendations to our public school system to more appropriately and fully include Black and African history in its curriculum. This is a next step. This is an action plan. This is something beyond ceremony. We've done a lot of that in our city and everywhere else in this nation where we've had apologies and resolutions with no funding and resolutions with no action plan that can be measured. This can be measured. This has a fund. The fund is growing already by additional contributions from private entities and residents and churches and synagogues. And we expect this program to continue beyond the 10 years that it's designed. Okay,
we're going to continue this on the other side of the break, find out more about it. I also want to talk, there was a document that I saw on your Twitter page, Evanston Reparations, Correcting Misinformation about Local and Federal Reparations. Both are possible. We're going to discuss all this on the other side of the break. So stand by, my sister. We're speaking with 5th Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons about the reparations proposal that passed City Council in Evanston, Illinois. It's reparations for redlining. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Gain knowledge in minutes from insightful summaries of progressive and socially conscious books. Blacklisted gives you access to curated content that'll satisfy your curiosity to learn and understand different perspectives. Empower yourself through inspirational and actionable ideas. It's easy to read or listen to on the go. Blacklisted. Empower yourself. Start your free trial today.
Are you getting ready for fall or winter? We have the solution for all seasonal clothing needs. CosmeticWear.com is the go-to online source for Kemetic African fashion and lifestyle products with a contemporary twist. We're committed to offering unique styles reflecting our African heritage. CosmeticWear.com is inspired by CometicScribes.com to influence our people in learning and showing pride. Please visit our website at CometicWear.com.
We all know the cannabis industry is headed toward an uprise in the past decade. What happens when there is a brand that brings this uprise in a blow? The cannabis industry welcomes her uprise. Hustle her hemp. Delivering excellence with pride is her watchword, and how you choose to embrace it makes it a priority. From cultivating rich cannabis into exquisite and tastefully finished CBD products to delivery, Hustle Her Hemp leaves no stone unturned. Hustle Her Hemp's mission is to empower women of color by building business and creating legacies, uniting beauty, health, and business. We are a pure definition of how we want the CBD industry to become in the future. While we are redefining innovation, we bring the same energy to improving the quality of life. Hustle Her Hemp is the new uprise.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson, President and CEO of JCW Computer Consulting LLC, a technology implementation firm with over 20 years of satisfying customers. We offer a full spectrum of industry top-tier branded services. We are an authorized partner or reseller for Lenovo, Zoom, T-Mobile, Microsoft 365 and Surface tablets, Google Workspace, Acer, Asus, Samsung, PCmatic security software, and many more. Our online store features laptops, Chromebooks, computers, printers, accessories, and software. Businesses, take advantage of our free 1-hour Zoom tech consultation and know we offer top nationwide high-speed internet service providers, voice over IP, and cellular phone services. Home users, don't miss our current in-stock Chromebook inventory. Please visit us at jcwcc.com or call 215-879-6701.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Thursday, April 1st, 2021, and we are live. We have a very, very special guest that we're joined by today, 5th Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons from Evanston, Illinois. You've heard me talk about Evanston, Illinois, and the city council passing a proposal to distribute reparations to African Americans who were the victims of redlining from 1919 to 1969. And we're dealing with exactly what happened, why it happened, separating fact from fiction. Now, somebody asked the question, one state that didn't have chattel slavery. I'm coming to you in just a second, Robin. Different states abolished slavery at different times in history. This is why I can't stress enough, Americans don't understand history. Illinois abolished slavery in 1818. Indiana abolished slavery in 1816. And as we talked about right before the break, chattel slavery didn't exist in Evanston, Illinois. This is why, but redlining did. This is why I explain to people, especially people talking about reparations, first thing you want to do is go read the U.S. Constitution, because Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution clearly tells you that the U.S. Constitution, all of the previous treaties and all the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. 1, 2, you have to study history and study history of slavery, because the way slavery evolved in this country is not how you think it evolved. Read chapter 2 of Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. Okay. All right. Let's go back to our guest, 5th Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons. Okay. So right before the break, you were talking about how the fund is growing and more people are contributing to it. You also talked about an African American history program or class or something. Talk about those two things, the fund growing and the African American history class.
So thank you. I love talking about that. So we have a initial fund of $10 million that's coming from sales tax from cannabis. That's coming in incrementally as we receive cannabis sales tax revenue.
Okay.
The beauty of what's happening in our city is our residents have begun to contribute to a fund that I asked we establish that is it is tax deductible. So residents have begun to give. We have businesses that have begun to commit a portion of their proceeds. We have houses of worship, a local synagogue, a Catholic church, our local Unitarian church that has created a matching fund, and family foundations that are looking at preparing major contributions to increase our reparation fund. So although right now it's $10 million, more of what I would love to see is folks working on how we increase that fund. So I really appreciate those that have worked to increase the fund. We have other institutional partners that have been very important. First of all, I have to acknowledge in COBRA's role in the reparations movement, period, in history. We're only talking about reparations. We're only passing reparations in Evanston and other localities because in COBRA for the last 34 years have kept the move for reparations for Blacks in America alive. So we've had other institutional partners, including Howard and Howard Law School, Columbia Law School, the African American Redress Network. We have support from the Human Rights Network, as well as ACLU, prepared to defend us in the event we have a legal challenge. We expect that we would have a conservative-funded legal challenge, and we've had one already from a conservative-funded lawsuit challenge from out of Texas.
Okay.
And we expect that, and now we have institutional partners that are prepared to defend it, along with our own municipal law department that built out a very strong case for reparations, one that we can defend, one that we can enforce with our home rule municipality. So that's why this program is very narrowly focused, so that it does have the opportunity to pass legal muster and constitutionality. And we will be able to do that with confidence. We're prepared to do it with confidence. And we will continue to build on the work that we've started here in Evanston.
Well, you know, this is what I've been explaining to my listeners, is that when you craft your legal argument, because it has to be a legal argument for reparations. A legal argument is not, we worked for 246 years for free and we didn't get paid, because if you study the history of slavery, it was legal not to pay slaves. So you talking about back wages for 246 years is not a legal argument. It was legal not to pay you. That's not a legal argument. Number one. Number two, now we know it was wrong that it was done, but it was legal. And what people don't seem to understand is when you go to lawmakers, you go to argue law. You don't go to lawmakers to argue morality. And what people don't understand is that there are going to be legal challenges to any type of reparations program. And you have to make sure that you are on strong legal footing so you can actually keep what you want. You can defend what you got. And this is what a lot of people don't seem to understand. So you said you have one, we'll talk about the African American history class in just a minute here. But you said you have one legal challenge already. Are you at liberty to talk about that a little bit, the legal challenge?
Sure, because it's actually public record.
Okay.
And it is it's a law firm that is known for challenging affirmative action cases. And they are based out of Texas, and they are challenging our legal right to advance this type of a program. And we were prepared when we received it, and we are even more prepared with support from, as I mentioned, Howard and Columbia Law School and the African American Redress Network,
right,
to defend this if it should go to court. At this point, it is a let's say, just a challenge. It is a heads up. It's a threat of a lawsuit for us to continue doing the work. It's not actually a lawsuit at this point.
Okay.
We don't expect them to back down. We're clear on the nation that we live in.
Right.
And we're clear on the resources that they have. And we understand that this although it's a small step in a small locality, we understand that it is a huge step towards HR 40 and reparations for Blacks in America.
Mm-hmm.
So we expected that we would be not only the model or at least the instigator of this type of work, and we expected that would come along with legal challenges that we're prepared for.
Well, that's the first thing. When I first heard this story some months ago, when I first heard about this story before the proposal passed, I heard that this was something being proposed. I said, I wonder what their legal argument is going to be to defend this in court, because I know they're going to be sued, because I understand. I mean, as I explained to my listeners, look, under the Trump administration, Trump had his Attorney General, William Barr, sue to try to repeal the entire Affordable Health Care Act, known as Obamacare, that saved millions of white people's lives. Okay. And the case went before the U.S. Supreme Court, and the decision from the Supreme Court is going to come down sometime maybe June or July this year. If they're trying to repeal the Affordable Health Care Act in court that saved millions of white people's lives, you think they won't try to overturn reparations and go to court to overturn reparations and deem it unconstitutional? This is why you have to make sure your legal argument is sound from the beginning. Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
Boyd and Gray and Associates that has filed a lawsuit.
What's the name of it? What's the name of it?
Boyd and Gray and Associates.
BOYD, Boyd and Gray.
Boyd, B as in boy, then Boyden, Gray, in the color gray and Associates.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have a history of filing. This is what they do. They file affirmative action types of lawsuits. It's public knowledge. This has been reported on, so I can speak about it.
Okay.
And they have their charge is that racial and ethnic classifications are unconstitutional, unfair, and harmful. And they are stating that we are acting unconstitutionally. We have discriminatory practices. And the program is seriously insufficient to state a compelling interest, and that the proposal not narrowly tailored to achieve its stated interest. And I think that it's exactly sufficient, very compelling, and appropriately narrowly tailored to advance redress for anti-Black housing policies. And that's the position that our law department is taking, as well as those law firms that are supporting us.
Okay, now Evanston, Illinois is a city that has a population of about 75,000 people. It's 16% African American, 16% African American. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, what's the percentage of white people in Evanston, Illinois?
Well, I want to add that the reason why I introduced reparations in 2019 is we had been as high as 25% only in 2010. And we've had a severe decline, what I've referred to as an exodus of the Black community, because of lack of affordability, lack of a sense of place in our community, and not enjoying the same lived experience as white friends and neighbors in town, and lack of access to economic opportunity, whether it be living wage workforce opportunities or business opportunities. So we have been declining our sense of place. Our neighborhood is gentrifying. I still live in a neighborhood that once was pretty much all Black block is not so much anymore. We have gentrification that's happening, and again, this isn't unique. It's happening all across the nation.
Yeah, like Detroit.
Okay, it's happening in Detroit. I didn't know that.
I live in Detroit. Yeah, I live in downtown Detroit. That's where it started first. Yes.
Yeah. Last time I was there, it looked a lot different than when I lived in the area in the early 2000s.
Oh, you still live in Detroit?
Well, I actually lived in Birmingham. My family lives in Detroit on the west side.
Okay. All right, we'll have to talk. We probably know some of the same people then. Okay.
Yes, probably. But so we have now a growing Latinx community that will definitely, we're waiting on the 2020 census information. And, I believe that we will be the minority even less than our Latinx community, because they are growing and building wealth and having access to opportunity. And then we have a growing Asian community as well. So where we were a predominantly Black neighborhood with a rich historic place in this town, that has changed because of affordability and historic and institutional and systemic anti-Blackness that continues in the city. Again, not unique to Evanston. That's happening all over.
Right.
But it's happening here at a rate that we're losing our Black population.
Okay, now I want to go quickly here to an article from the Washington Post. It's a really, really good article, gives background information. People, you can read this, as well as the 77-page study. This is from March 22nd, 2021. And I shared this with my listeners when the story broke. Evanston, Illinois leads the country with first reparations program for Black residents. And once again, this is dealing with redlining. Reparations is not synonymous with slavery. Reparations, the root concept is repairing the damage that was done. It's not specific to slavery. I just want people to understand that. So in the article, they quote Dr. Ron Daniels, who I know, president of the National African American Reparations Commission. He said, right now, the whole world is looking at Evanston, Illinois. This is a moment not like none other that we've ever seen, and it is a good moment. It then goes on to say the Evanston City Council approved the first phase of reparations to acknowledge the harm caused by discriminatory hiring practices, especially redlining practices and inaction going back more than a century. The 8-to-1 vote will initially make $400,000 available in a $25,000 home ownership and improvement grants, as well as in mortgage assistance for Black residents, primarily those who can show they are direct descendants of individuals who lived in the city between 1919 and 1969 and suffered from such discrimination. Okay, talk about that for a minute here. And then it goes on to say the housing is part of a larger $10 million package approved for continued reparations initiatives, which will be funded by income from annual cannabis taxes over the next decade that we talked about. Black residents make up about 16% of Evanston's population of 75,000. Okay, so very briefly here, talk about the period of time, 1919 to 1969, and how many actually qualify for the up to $25,000 in homeownership improvement grants.
Awesome. So 1919 is the guideline to 1969, specifically because in 1919 there was housing policy and zoning policy that was passed and enforced in the city of Evanston that restricted Black residents to living in the western of the 5th Ward, and areas that Black residents did live were rezoned to commercial, and the existing zoning in the western and 5th Ward was rezoned, and it reduced the housing stock. So it did a few things. It actually required Black residents that had homes more east in our city, that's where our beautiful lakefront and beautiful beaches are. Of course, the land value is much more. Their homes were physically relocated, moved from their homes on their streets east of where we live now, and physically relocated to the west end of the ward where the property land value was less, where there were less amenities, where there are still today environmental injustices that we deal with, air quality problems between pollution from busing to a waste transfer station that we have here in our area, to a business that continues to operate non-compliant with EPA standards. These are the conditions in which homes are physically moved to this area near a canal that was once used for sanitation. It's since been cleaned up, but so that zoning policy in 1919 created the conditions and the segregation that we see today.
Right.
1969 is the year of significance because that's when we passed and enforced fair housing. So technically, we should have fair housing practices. We should have access to live throughout the city after 1969, but of course we still don't because our income and other barriers to access wealth and income that would allow us to purchase homes at market rates outside of the Fifth Ward still exist today. We have not enjoyed the wealth transfer that our white friends and neighbors have enjoyed that was rooted in the transatlantic slave trade and other white privileges that we haven't had access to. So it is important that we advance with reparative models, policies, with funding, with urgency, knowing that we'll have to do it incrementally. The funding is coming in, on a monthly basis. We're still developing proposals. We're still looking at remedies that will actually give us the return that we're looking for and increase households and increase rate of home ownership and repair and financial wellness and bridging the education gap and other disparities. But we must begin to advance reparations now, not fight about who's the smartest in the room and what's the right way to do it. Just do the work and move forward with reparations. We need to do this. It's triaged by the quoting of Cam Howard from Cobra.
Cam Howard, yep.
No municipality can get to full repair. So while we're being judged as we have settled the debt for Black America because of this one housing initiative, that is not the case. We never claimed that it was the case. We're being judged on 4% of a program. We still have 96% of a program to go. And I expect that the fund will increase, beyond the $10 million to $100 million. Another thing that I should add is I really believe so much in this that our local foundation has established an additional reparation fund so that when the stakeholder community, when Black folks decide that we want to do something beyond housing and economic development, which is what our policy limits us to do, there is a fund that has no limits. It's not public dollars. It doesn't require a legislative process. It's going to be governed by a group of Black Evanston residents, and remedy proposals are decided and dispersed by this group of Black Evanston residents. And that fund will be in perpetuity. There's both an endowed fund and a regular, more sort of easier to access fund.
Okay.
And those funds are building wealth and gaining wealth, and they will be dispersed by the Black community. That's an additional benefit that we have happening in Evanston.
Well, you all have this. I have to say this because I hear a whole lot of people talking about reparations, and I hear people say reparations now, and I know they mean well, but see, my response to reparations now is reparations how? H-O-W, reparations how? Explain to me how you get the bill passed. Explain to me how your legal argument to defend it in court when you get challenged. Because reparations has to be a legal argument, okay? One of them is based upon Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which led to the international transatlantic slave trade being abolished by the U.S. Congress March 2nd, 1807. That goes into effect January 1st, 1808. So all the Africans brought to this country from January 1st, 1808 to June of 1860, when the Clotilda slave ship comes into Alabama, all that is human trafficking. That's all illegal based upon federal law that white people kept violating in their court cases to back up your legal argument, like the U.S. Supreme Court case of 1841 of the Amistad slave ship. Because when you go to archives.gov and research that court case, it tells you that it was illegal for the Amistad ship to come into U.S. waters in the first place because the international transatlantic slave trade had been abolished. And that was one of the reasons why those Africans, Joseph Q and the others on Amistad, were set free. They went to the U.S. Supreme Court and won their freedom. OK, that's a foundation for a legal argument for reparations for chattel slavery. Now, very quickly, because I know you have to run, and thanks for you got a few more minutes.
I do, yeah.
Okay. I want to hit on something quickly here. In the article from the Washington Post, once again, Everybody should go read this. It's a really good article. Cam Howard, who we've had here on the show before, of Incoba, Cam Howard is quoted. It says, and Evanston should be considered the prototype. And Evanston should be considered the prototype because of how the city approached its initiative, said Cam Howard of the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. Quote, most other commissions file resolutions and then allocate funds for them, but Evanston set aside the resources up front, end quote. Okay. Now, just so people understand, whoever has a legitimate legal argument for reparations, I'm for that. I don't say this group over that group. I ain't into that. Okay. But I hear a whole lot of people talking about reparations and they're not making legal arguments. That's a problem. Okay. Now, then also in the article, there was let me see, there was another point that I wanted to hit on. Oh, House Judiciary Subcommittee held a hearing on the bill last month. That would be February, for HR 40. Okay, for HR 40. This is in the article from the Washington Post as well. The bill has 173 sponsors in the House of Representatives, but Dr. Ron Daniels projects that that number going toward 190, which makes it likely to pass. The problem is you need 218 votes to get any bill passed in the House of Representatives. So I don't know where the other 28 are coming from, but we'll see. No Republicans are going to vote for it because they wouldn't even, not a single Republican voted for the American Rescue Plan, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that was going to help a lot of white Republicans that keep voting to put Republicans back in office. They didn't even vote for that. Now it goes on to say it faces a much bigger challenge in the Senate, which is true because there's only 2.5 black people in the U.S. Senate, and one of them, Senator Tim Scott, Black Tea Party Republican from South Carolina, already said he's not voting for reparations. I don't even think you need 60 votes to get a reparations bill passed in the Senate. I don't even think you have 40 votes. All right, so we have to understand that we have to continue to vote people into office who support reparations and vote people out of office who don't support reparations. All right, now
that's right. That's right.
Absolutely. We many people don't understand how to actually advance the bill and get it passed. We don't understand. We're playing a political game of football and don't know the difference between the first down and the touchdown and wonder why we don't have any points on the board. Okay, now, lastly, I want to go to this piece here. Evanston reparations, correcting misinformation about local and federal reparations, both are possible. When I was talking to you on Twitter, somebody posted this. You have this on your Twitter page as well. This is critical. This helps correct a whole lot of misinformation floating around. First off, anything that you want to say about this document here, to capsulize the Evanston reparations, and then there's a couple of things I'll zone in on.
No, in the misinformation piece that was done by Dreesen, is that what you're talking about?
Right, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Dreesen Heath, Human Rights Watch, yeah, that's the piece I'm talking about. I have it up right now on the screen so for people to see it. Go ahead.
Okay. So really what I would like people to do is just read it. Just read it. And
that's the hard thing. That's the hard part.
Right. Just read it. Know that this is done in good faith, well-intended, easy to defend by our legal department. This is set up to succeed. This is not set up to be aspirational and we 30 years from now still trying to talk about what we want to do and what we owe. This is the first step. There's more work to do. There is momentum. We're growing the fund. But that report that she prepared, I really appreciate she did that. Dreesen is incredible. Mm-hmm. And she really details misinformation, highlights the facts, and really showcases what's possible, what we're doing here in Evanston and what's possible in other localities. And it may even give a possibility of how we might advance HR 40 with funding beyond a study bill and looking towards remedy proposals. So my ask is that folks really just read more information. Know that some folks are misinformed. Know that some folks are intentionally misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Also know that this work is very emotional, so it's how do you ever quantify what is enough to justify the harms that we have experienced. So you have a combination of just genuine ignorance and then genuine or not genuine or intentional misinformation for political and personal reasons. And then you have a very emotional topic that we have been harmed. You know, no $25,000 housing grant or $1 million check is enough for us to say we are satisfied, but we can work together towards a settlement that will allow us to build on with also having good ordinary public policy. So equity and inclusion, all of those policies that still have racism embedded in them that is continuing to sustain our conditions. So it needs to be a combination of completely looking at our policies at a local and federal level, some form of reparations at a local level, reparations at a federal level, looking at cash payments at some level. It's not a likely path at a municipal level just because of the resources that we have or don't have access to. But we need to advance the work, working together, knowing that it's going to take generations to get it done. It's taken us 402 years to get here. So we can't expect with one local initiative to say we have solved all of the harms against Black America in Evanston with actual funding. It's too much responsibility to put on one locality. So let's just acknowledge it for what it is, an important, transformative, historic step in the right direction towards justice and reparations for Blacks in America.
Okay, very quickly, I want to zoom in on something right here, this document. It says there's a lot of misinformation about reparations in the public sphere. There's absolutely no substitute for what the federal government owes descendants of enslaved Africans in the U.S., but violations also happen at the local, state, and institutional levels. It goes on to say specific harms require a specific remedy or repair mechanism. The right to an effective remedy for human rights violations, including acts of racial discrimination, is guaranteed under international human rights law applicable to the U.S. It then goes on to say reparations for the legacy of slavery should rectify past and ongoing harms, etc., including with respect to housing, health, education, life, security of person. Okay, then it lays out reparations can take any of the following forms as defined by international human rights standards: restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, guarantees of non-repetition. It goes on to talk about, this includes, let's see here, I want to skip down. This includes racialized and class-based housing segregation at the federal level, more than 270 million acres of land via the Homestead Act. The Homestead Act was from 1862 to 1988. 1862 to 1988, the last allotment from the Homestead Act was given out in 1988. It was 80 acres of land in Alaska, okay, was granted to mostly white people. The Homestead Act, as well as the Southern Homestead Act of 1866, about 45 million acres of land. All that mainly went to white people. Quote unquote, urban removal and federally financed highway construction destroyed Black neighborhoods across the U.S. At least 239 cities were redlined. At least 239 cities were redlined, making it virtually impossible to obtain a home mortgage loan. The federal government and local governments colluded with private lenders to create barriers to home ownership, exacerbating the wealth gap. Okay. At the local level, housing inequities were further compounded by additional discriminatory housing policies and practices such as local exclusionary zoning laws. Okay, so people, please read this. I know you have to run, sister. Thanks for staying with us. This is at nbcitrust.org, or just Google Evanston Reparations, correcting misinformation about local and federal reparations. Well, look, sister, Fifth Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons, I applaud what you're doing. It takes a lot of courage to do what you're doing also. And keep up the good work. If there are any new developments, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll bring you back to talk about it.
I sure will.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. And I just appreciate you putting the facts out there. Thank you for the invitation.
No problem, sister. No problem. You have a good day. Okay. Have a good night. Okay. All right. Thanks. Peace. All right, everybody. So that was Fifth Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons. Exclusive interview here on the African History Network show, separating fact from fiction, because that's what we do here. We do research. Those watching, if you like this type of information also, you can support the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We're here 6 days a week. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. We're Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. And we also broadcast on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. Those watching on our Facebook fan page and YouTube, we're going to go for a few more minutes. Keep watching. We're out of time here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation. We're going to talk about day 4 of the Derek Chauvin trial in the murder of George Floyd. We'll give you a recap of that. All right. Remember, right now it's correct. Oh, and I'll be on. Okay, so Friday I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I'm a panelist each Friday. We'll discuss that on our Friday show here. All of my DVD lectures are available at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Oh, and you can still register for my online course that I teach on Tuesdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach in school. We just posted the link here. It's also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And all the sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch any class that you missed as well. Right now, it's correct. Wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Democracy Now! We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right. Stand by, everybody. Let me clear this call. Okay. All right. So that was an exclusive interview. You won't see an in-depth interview like that many other places with Fifth Ward Alderwoman Rue Simmons, breaking down exactly what they did and why they did it and how they did it. All right. I want to shift gears here and we'll talk a little bit about day 4 in the Derek Chauvin trial. Today was less of an emotional day to a certain extent. It was still some emotional testimony, but it was day 3 was like really devastating and emotional testimony for day 3. Digital Dandelion's Technical Solutions works with businesses like yours to create an operations manual for your business, which is something many businesses don't have. According to AARP, more than 30% of small business owners are over 50 years old. Many business owners want to retire by selling their businesses or by passing their businesses on to their children. However, according to Forbes Investment Advisors, many retiring owners' attempts to sell their businesses for retirement fail. You cannot sell your business without a business manual. Your children also cannot inherit your business because there is no way to run it. Your business does not have to die when you leave. Their business Bible products will give you the tools you need for a thriving business that can make you money even after you retire. Are you looking at increasing your business's annual revenue? Digital Dandelions can help you make at least $100,000 in annual revenue and expand your business. Speak with them today about solidifying your business. Visit digitaldandelions.com today and get a free 30-minute consultation.
We all know the cannabis industry is headed toward an uprise in the past decade. What happens when there is a brand that brings this uprise in a blow? The cannabis industry welcomes her uprise. Hustle her hemp. Delivering excellence with pride is her watchword, and how you choose to embrace it makes it a priority. From cultivating rich cannabis into exquisite and tastefully finished CBD products to delivery, Hustle Her Hemp leaves no stone unturned. Hustle Her Hemp's mission is to empower women of color by building business and creating legacies, uniting beauty, health, and business. We are a pure definition of how we want the CBD industry to become in the future. While we are redefining innovation, we bring the same energy to improving the quality of life. Hustle Her Hemp is the new Uprise.
Black Bees products are a collection of natural, organic, personal care products with an appreciation of nature and bees. Our philosophy is without bees, we have nothing. We are honoring our Nile Valley ancestors who understood the importance of bees. Black Bees created a high-quality, natural, organic personal care line that would be affordable to everyone. We hope you try and enjoy our Black Bees products line and come back and visit us at blackbeesproducts.com.
With blackbusinesstee.com, the messages are clear and meaningful. Keep your business in the black and out of the red. Mind your black business, know your numbers, and plan strategically. Black Business Boss, lead your industry. Support black business. Encourage, patronize, and uplift one another. BlackBusinessTea.com currently has products sold in Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles, with proceeds returned to the black community. They have a wide selection of hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, hats, sweatshirts that support black-owned businesses. Visit the website blackbusinesstee.com. That's blackbusinesstee.com. Okay, so I want to, we're going to go to NBC Nightly News here for a recap of what happened today. And we'll talk about this here. All right, so we saw two paramedics who testified today. And let me get my notes here just a second. We saw two paramedics that testified today. We saw George Floyd's girlfriend as well testified also. We saw Derek Chauvin's former supervisor testify as well. His former supervisor, Derek Chauvin's former supervisor, testified that his restraint of George Floyd violated use of force policies, with his knee on his neck, violated use of force policies. And let's see here. Let's go to, we'll go to a recap here from NBC Nightly News.
Didn't take long for Courtney Ross to cry. Didn't take long for Courtney Ross to cry as she remembered how she met George Floyd in 2017.
Was what I would call a mama's boy. I could tell from the minute I met him.
This now iconic photo of Floyd, Ross said, was taken as a selfie at the Salvation Army where he worked.
Floyd has this great, deep Southern voice.
They began dating, and she told jurors how he was devastated by the death of his mother.
He seemed kind of like a shell of himself. Like he was broken. He seemed so sad.
During her testimony, meant to humanize Floyd, one juror off camera had a furrowed brow and one of his hands up by his masked face, seemingly emotional. Ross said injuries and his desire to still be physically active led Floyd to pain pills.
We both suffered from chronic pain. Mine was in my neck and his was in his back. We got addicted and tried really hard to break that addiction many times.
In March of 2020, Ross testified she drove Floyd to the hospital and learned he'd overdosed.
You did not know that he had taken heroin at that time?
No.
Derek Chauvin's defense team has argued that Floyd's underlying health conditions and drug use killed him. not the 9 minutes and 29 seconds that prosecutors say the former Minneapolis officer held his knee on Floyd's neck. The next two witnesses, paramedics, said Floyd had no pulse when EMS arrived at the scene.
I didn't see any breathing or movement or anything like that.
In lay terms, I thought he was dead.
Today's testimony came after prosecutors on Wednesday played body camera videos from all four officers that responded, including Chauvin's, which had not been seen publicly before. His camera fell beneath a police squad car as officers struggled with Floyd. Later, Chauvin's voice is heard explaining why he restrained Floyd for so long.
He's got to control this guy because he's a sizable guy.
Yeah, and I thought he didn't get in the car.
Looks like he's probably on something.
Today, Philonis Floyd was in the courtroom as prosecutors showed graphic images of the efforts to resuscitate his brother inside the ambulance.
There's no justification why a person should put their knee and all of their weight on a man's neck until they pass. He was tortured to death.
Late today, Chauvin's shift supervisor testified that officers should not keep restraining suspects when they're handcuffed and not moving, Lester.
And Gabe, who's expected to testify tomorrow?
Well, the prosecution team told the judge, Lester, that they intend to call the Minneapolis police chief to the stand tomorrow.
Okay, so Chief Arredondo is going to testify on Friday. Friday is going to be a half day of testimony, half day of court. But Chief Arredondo is going to testify. He's going to talk about police use of force and policy there in the Minneapolis Police Department. Okay, so let me give a quick recap of further recap of what took place today. So we learned some more today, and the testimony from the testimony from the former supervisor was devastating testimony also. It was hurtful to the defense. So let me, let's look at this here. All right. And let me pull this back up if I can here. Okay, so two paramedics testified today, paramedics that rendered aid to George Floyd. They tried to revive him. They were unsuccessful. Paramedic says George Floyd flatlined on the way to hospital. The paramedic who provided medical assistance to George Floyd testified that George Floyd had flatlined on the way to the hospital and that his heart was not pumping. Seth Zachary Bravender said he stopped the ambulance a few blocks away from the site where George Floyd was restrained to help his partner give assistance to Floyd. It was then that he realized Floyd had flatlined. Bravender testified. It's not a good sign for a successful resuscitation. Quote, basically, just because your heart isn't doing anything at that moment, he added, is not a good sign for a good outcome. When Bravender initially arrived at the scene, he said he could tell from a distance that Floyd was not responsive. Now, Bravender said he asked now former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin to get off Floyd so they could move him. Okay, so they had to ask, they're there on the scene to render aid, and they had to ask Derek Chauvin, please take your knee off that black man's neck. They're there to render aid. They have to ask him, could you get off of him so we can render aid? You called us, right? You called us. Can you get off of him? So the jury was also shown images from inside the ambulance from another officer's body cam showing the paramedics attempting to revive George Floyd. They can be seen using a Lucas device to do medical chest compressions on Floyd in an attempt to get his heart beating again. Now, earlier in the day, George Floyd's girlfriend, Courtney Ross, gave a tearful testimony as the first witness of the day. Ross told the jury both she and Floyd suffered from chronic pain and struggled with addiction to painkillers through their 3-year relationship. She said Floyd and I, she referred to him as Floyd. Floyd and I both suffered with an opioid addiction. She told prosecutor Matthew Frank, both Floyd and I, our story, it's a classic story of how many people get addicted to opioids, So she talked about she had a neck injury. George Floyd had a back injury. But, you know, this is something classic. And then the defense attorney, Eric Nelson, provided more information saying that George Floyd has started using heroin. OK, so and what happens is oftentimes people get prescribed opioids because of chronic pain. They're not doing anything illegal. They get prescribed opioids because of chronic pain. And then what happens is when the prescriptions run out and are not filled anymore, you know, they've become addicted to the opioids. They're highly addictive. So then they go to the black market. They go to drug dealers to try to get some either some type of prescription opioids, or they'll turn to heroin because opium is in heroin. So they'll turn to heroin and get addicted to heroin. This is very, very common. So we heard that testimony as well today. We heard now one thing that the defense will probably try to hone in on, and it's important for people to understand. The prosecution in general is doing a very good job, but the defense has not presented their case yet. The defense has done cross-examination. This is the prosecution's case right now. The prosecutors are presenting their case. The defense hasn't brought forth their witnesses. They haven't brought forth their experts. They haven't brought forth their doctors yet. Once the prosecution rests, then the defense will present their case. We haven't seen the defense case. Now, as I've said before, you're going to have to explain to me why Derek Chauvin kept his knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. And it was about 4 minutes or so that Floyd he stopped talking and he wasn't moving. So why you still have your knee on his neck? And we know the medical examiner said it was asphyxiation that killed Floyd. It wasn't an overdose. It was because you cut off the flow of blood to his brain and you had your knee on his neck. All right. So, but we have to understand, the prosecution hasn't presented their case yet. They've just been doing cross-examination of witnesses. So there's I want to go to this clip here. This is one of the paramedics. This is Seth Bravender. One of the paramedics who treated George Floyd said that Floyd appeared unresponsive when they first arrived on the scene. He also explained that George Floyd was in handcuffs, but had, quote unquote, no movement and was not breathing before they attempted to treat him for cardiac arrest. Okay, let's go to this clip here from MSNBC.
So when you got to the scene, what did you do next?
Parked the ambulance near the patient and got out. I walked to the back of the ambulance and my partner walked over to check on the patient.
And what did you see when you got out of the ambulance in terms of the patient's condition at that point?
I was standing a little ways away, so I couldn't get him. And my partner would have a more accurate description of his condition at that point, but from what I could see where I was at, I didn't see any breathing or movement or anything like that.
Did he appear to be unresponsive to you at that point in time?
From what I could tell, just standing from a distance, yes.
And was he in handcuffs?
Yes.
And we're describing the patient here. Was that patient later identified as George Floyd?
Yes.
So when you got out, your partner first approached, is that right? What were you doing at that initial point in time when you first got there?
As he went over to check on the patient, I was watching him to kind of get a cue on what we were going to do next, because, we're still determining what the patient's condition was. So I was kind of waiting for him to go check on the patient and then know what to do next.
And at that point in time, when you were standing outside, your partner was approaching the patient, did you see a struggle of any kind going on, any movement, anything like that?
No.
Okay. So after your partner first approached, did you see what he was doing?
Yeah, he checked a pulse on his neck, a carotid pulse, and also looked like he checked the patient's pupils.
And did you discuss with your partner at that point next steps?
Yeah, he walked back towards me, and I asked, he in cardiac arrest, and he said, I think so.
So, you use the word cardiac arrest. What does that mean?
It's the term we're going to use for anybody that's not responsive, not breathing, and doesn't have a pulse currently.
So, essentially, does that mean that someone's heart is stopped?
Yeah.
Are there multiple things that can cause someone's heart to stop?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that was one of the paramedics. That was Seth Zachary Bravender, okay, who was one of the paramedics who tried to provide aid to George Floyd. And once again, I think it's important to note that when the paramedics arrived on the scene, they said that they had to ask Chauvin to get off of George Floyd. So that says a lot right there. It wasn't a situation. Let me see. We still have this up here. Let me show this to you again. Because you would think, right, if it was a situation where you're trying to, so officers trying to save a suspect's life. The paramedics arrived there and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. He's right here. Okay, here, let me take the cuffs off. Oh, okay, come on, he's right here. Here, I'll take the cuffs off." That's not what happened. Okay, let's look at this again. Bravender, Seth Zachary Bravender, one of the paramedics who rendered aid, said he asked now former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin to get off Floyd so they could move him. If you have an officer who's trying to save somebody's life, as soon as EMS gets there, it's like, "Hey, he's right here. Here, let me take the cuffs off. Okay, you need me to do anything?" That's not what happened. I want to go to this next clip here. This is from I Remember the Beat. So Derek Chauvin's former supervisor testified today. And it was devastating testimony. He testified that Derek Chauvin, the restraint that Chauvin used on George Floyd violated use of force policies for the Minneapolis Police Department. Okay, let's go to this next clip.
As Nicole was just reporting, the fourth day of this Chauvin trial wrapping up. Chauvin's police supervisor testifying just moments ago he should have stopped using restraint. The officer should have, when Floyd was no longer showing any resistance.
And Mr. Floyd was no longer offering up any resistance to the officers. They could have ended their restraint.
That is a significant, albeit simple moment in the trial. But sometimes what's simple is important because the jury can understand it and remember it. You have the actual police supervisor for the murder defendant condemning the officer, the defendant, on the stand. This came after paramedics. Paramedics testified that Floyd seemed to be dead when they arrived on the scene.
When I arrived on the scene, there was a police squad, an individual laying down, 3 officers on the individual.
What did his condition appear to be to you overall?
In lay terms, I thought he was dead. I kind of looked for my partner and told him I think he's dead. I want to move this out of here.
Okay.
And I will begin care in the back.
Okay, now that was the second paramedic. That wasn't Seth Zachary Bravender. That's the second paramedic. That was his partner. Let's go back to this clip.
In lay terms, I thought he was dead. Again, simple, clear, sad and tragic as well, but important for the jury to hear this in plain English because it all is part of the prosecution's case here. We also heard from the paramedics who took Floyd to the hospital. Graphic images shown of Floyd on the stretcher. En route, paramedics say that Floyd appeared unresponsive, not breathing, with Chauvin still basically on him when they first arrived. Now, inside the courtroom, a juror was also seen holding her hand over her mouth as she watched some of this. We also today saw, for the first time, someone very close to Floyd, his girlfriend, providing her views, her recollections, her emotional testimony about their relationship.
When was it that you first met Mr. Floyd?
May I tell the story?
Sure.
Okay. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. Excuse me. Sorry. He said, well, can I pray with you? This kind person just to come up to me and say, can I pray with you? When I felt alone in this lobby, it was so sweet.
Okay, so that is from The Beat. That's an excerpt. You can go to msnbc.com or CNN, watch more testimony from his girlfriend, from Courtney Ross. Okay, now read the article from, we have it up here on the screen. Read the article from NBCnews.com. Derek Chauvin's former supervisor testifies his restraint of George Floyd violated use of force policies. Violated use of force policies. All right. Let's see. So the rest of this we'll talk about on tomorrow's show, on Friday's show. Well, you know what? Radio station is we're not broadcasting live on Friday on the radio station. I forgot because of Easter holiday. So I may still broadcast. We'll see. I may still do a broadcast. I have to figure it out. I'm on Roland Martin Filtered as far as I know. So I may still do a broadcast. We'll figure it out. You can still register for the online class that I teach, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. If you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, right on the home page, scroll down and you'll see information for our show. We're on Monday through Friday and on Sundays. Click right here to listen to the audio podcast of the shows. Click here to read articles that I've written. This is an episode of our show where we dealt with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion performing WAP at the Grammys, and we dealt with negative corporate control hip hop and the attack that we're under. There's information here about the class. Next class is on Tuesday, April 6th. Okay, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Click right here to register. and takes you to the next page. Click here to enroll. Class is regularly $130, on sale $80. As soon as you register, you can watch the class we did this past Tuesday, and you can watch the previous classes as well. This is an 8-week, 16-hour online course that I do. We deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay, it's an 8-week, 16-hour online course. This time around, it's going to be 9 weeks. We'll throw in an extra session. Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, was he spoke to our class about 3 weeks ago. He wrote this book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. We dealt with the ancient African presence in the Americas, including this land going back, that we call the U.S., going back at least 51,700 years ago. And then Sister Nubia Wardford, cultural anthropologist, spoke to our class as well. So as soon as you register, you can watch those sessions. We do the classes live, all the sessions, we do the classes live. You can ask questions in the class through the live text chat. Okay, I can't see you, but you can ask questions. And then all the sessions are recorded. So you can go back and watch them over and over again. You can watch from around the world. You can watch as much as you want to. Even after the class ends, you can still go back and watch the content. All right. So we posted the link here. It's also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Remember, right, you can support the African History Network as well. $, the AHN show through Cash App, $, the AHN show through Cash App, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep broadcasting 6 days a week, finance the show, keep doing the research, pay some of the bills, etc. If you don't donate through, if you support us through Cash App, be sure to type in $, the AHN show, SHOW, $, the AHN show, and it's going to it'll say Michael, and it'll show my picture there. Okay. So this helps us to stay on the air. All of my DVD lectures and digital downloads are also at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we have the 15 DVD bundle pack, the Michael Imhotep Black History Month bundle pack. Includes 15 of my lectures. That's on sale. We have it in DVD and digital download format also, I think. That includes 15 of my presentations. And that's on sale $100 right now. That'll keep you busy. It's a ton of information there. And there's one presentation I did dealing with a history of economic boycotts, redistributing the pain. How African Americans historically fought back with economic boycott. So at our website on the homepage, right below the information about the online class, I spoke, back in February 24th, I spoke for Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated for the Black History Month virtual panel discussion. The Lambda Rho Zeta chapter of the Pontiac chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Those are my sisters. I'm a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. So right below that, we have the Michael Imhotep Black History Month DVD bundle pack. Click right here to order here. It gives you a breakdown of the 15 titles in the bundle. And we have one, Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization, where I deal with some well-known and not so well-known women in our history. 3 presentations deal with the film Black Panther. We have one on Dr. King, Malcolm X, the Tuskegee experiment of untreated syphilis on the Negro male. We do deal with fact. I separate fact from fiction because they did not inject them with syphilis. There were 600 men in the study. 399 men had an early form of syphilis called latent syphilis. They already had syphilis. 201 men in the study did not have syphilis. They were the control group. The 399 who had syphilis were denied proper treatment, denied penicillin once penicillin became the actual treatment for it. Okay, they did not inject them with syphilis. That's urban legend. Also, you get the double lecture that Dr. David Imhotep and I did. The First Americans were Africans, Documented Evidence. He dealt with that topic, and I dealt with Great African Women in History, the Mothers of Civilization. All right, so it's a 15 DVD bundle pack, and that's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Also, then right below that one is this one here. It was a really good one. I did this in 2019. Black Migration 1619 to 2019. Includes 6 presentations. It's in digital download format and DVD format. And it also includes you get this 3-hour presentation I did dealing with the history of Juneteenth. This one here dealing with the 400-year anniversary of August 20, 1619. It's an extensive presentation. Black Migration, 1619 to 2019. I deal with the Red Summer of 1919, the Great Migration, Detroit Race Riot of 1943. This one here, this deals with the history of why African Americans switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. Okay, it's a 3-hour presentation. The little known history of why African Americans switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. This deals with the history of when black men dominated horse racing and we would win the Kentucky Derbies and we got pushed out of horse racing. This one here, 6 principles of political self-defense. 6 principles of political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. There are 2 lectures on here. One I did at the Black Homeschooling Conference in Atlanta in 2019. And then there's another one in here also that I did. Let's see here. Let's pull this up. All right, and then the last one in the bundle is Ancient Africans in America Before Native Americans, Columbus, or Slavery from Kemet to Wakanda. So I do with the African presence in the Americas before slavery and before Native Americans came into existence also. All right, so check out that bundle as well. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behaviors, not over till we win, Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.
Gain knowledge in minutes from insightful summaries of progressive and socially conscious books. Blacklisted gives you access to curated content that'll satisfy your curiosity to learn and understand different perspectives. Empower yourself through inspirational and actionable ideas. It's easy to read or listen to on the go. Blacklisted. Empower yourself. Start your free trial today.
For 25 years, the Black History 101 Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the Black Museum movement in America by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, and cultural events, making it the most traversed Black History mobile exhibit in American history. Dr. Khalid El Hakim is the founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum, and he is a highly sought-after public speaker on topics of Black history, social studies, education, museum studies, hip-hop, and race relations. Dr. Khalid was named among the change makers for NBC Universal's Erase the Hate campaign and listed as one of the 100 men of distinction for Black enterprise. He recently founded the Michigan Hip Hop Archive on the campus of Western Michigan University. The Black History 101 Mobile Museum is currently scheduling in-person and virtual exhibits nationwide. For more information, please contact Dr. Khalid Al Hakim directly at 313-645-4197, 313-645-4197, or visit their website at blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. That's blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. You can also email him at bhistory101@yahoo.com, bhistory101@yahoo.com.
Digital Dandelion's Technical Solutions works with businesses like yours to create an operations manual for your business, which is something many businesses don't have. According to AARP, more than 30% of small business owners are over 50 years old. Many business owners want to retire by selling their businesses or by passing their businesses on to their children. However, according to Forbes Investment Advisors, many retiring owners' attempts to sell their businesses for retirement fail. You cannot sell your business without a business manual. Your children also cannot inherit your business because there is no way to run it. Your business does not have to die when you leave. Their business Bible products will give you the tools you need for a thriving business that can make you money even after you retire. Are you looking at increasing your business's annual revenue? Digital Dandelions can help you make at least $100,000 in annual revenue and expand your business. Speak with them today about solidifying your business. Visit digitaldandelions.com today and get a free 30-minute consultation.
Hi, I'm Joel Wilson, President and CEO of JCW Computer Consulting LLC, a technology implementation firm with over 20 years of satisfying customers. We offer a full spectrum of industry top-tier branded services. We are an authorized partner or reseller for Lenovo, Zoom, T-Mobile, Microsoft 365 and Surface tablets, Google Workspace, Acer, Asus, Samsung, PCmatic security software, and many more. Our online store features laptops, Chromebooks, computers, printers, accessories, and software. Businesses, take advantage of our free 1-hour Zoom tech consultation and know we offer top nationwide high-speed internet service providers, voice over IP, and cellular phone services. Home users, don't miss our current in-stock Chromebook inventory. Please visit us at jcwcc.com or call 215-879-6701.